want to touch base back with the Flynn case and see where we are there. I think the last time we spoke with you, the judge Emmett Sullivan had appointed former federal judge John Gleeson to oppose the Justice Department's request to drop the case against General Flynn and to examine whether Flynn may have committed perjury. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I didn't think Flynn had been charged with perjury. And if not, can the judge just charge him with a different crime?
Well, the judge doesn't have any authority to charge anybody with anything. He can hold somebody in contempt who commits contempt in his presence in his courtroom, but not for testimonial wrongdoings. First of all, General Flynn did not lie either to the FBI or to Judge Sullivan. I expect that Judge Sullivan's effort to make this a long-standing feud between him and General Flynn and the Justice Department and President Trump is going to have a short life. I think probably either DOJ and Sidney Powell or together are going to file a motion.
I think we lost Joe.
Okay. All right, we'll work on getting Joe back.
Yeah, don't know what happened to him. We'll do our best to get him back.
In the meantime, let me just say on this case, it is insane that happened. Like, I thought the role of a judge was to mediate a dispute between a plaintiff and a defendant, not to throw in on one side of the fight, right? So in this case, both the Justice Department and General Flynn agree that the case needs to go, it needs to be thrown out, and the judge says no. And he decides to, take up for the Justice Department's old position?
Well, here's the thing. The Atlantic has a piece, and this is why I was asking Joe. The Atlantic just put out a piece about an hour ago.
Yeah.
That the federal rules of criminal procedure permit the Justice Department to withdraw the Flynn indictment only, quote, with leave of court. In considering the leave, the judge is allowed to allow independent groups and legal experts to submit briefs on the issue. Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately, the only briefs he has so far looked towards are those who are arguing against this. We have Joe Digenova back. Sorry, Joe, I don't know what happened to you. I swear it wasn't me.
Anyway, bottom line is this. Judge Sullivan is in very deep legal trouble. There are 2 D.C. Circuit cases which tell him he's completely wrong in doing what he's trying to do. And one of them was written by the current chief judge of that course, Srinivasan, in 2016, where they ordered a D.C. district judge to proceed with a non-prosecution agreement that he disagreed with. So I expect that if a mandamus is filed by General Flynn and the DOJ together or just separately, that Judge Sullivan will be slapped down. The law is very clear. It's time for the return to regular order. Judge Sullivan is out of control. He's become an embarrassment to the district court bench, which generally has a very fine reputation. But he looks bad, he sounds bad, and quite frankly, he looks unhinged.
Okay, I want to ask you more about Mike Flynn here, Joe. Over the weekend, Andrew McCarthy at National Review wrote a very interesting piece about the relationship between Unmasking and General Flynn's phone call with Sergei Kislyak on December 29th, 2016. What's important about this story, Joe, is that there were no unmaskings between the time of the call and the time that the FBI found out about the call. The call was December 29th. Andrew McCabe knew by January 3rd there were no unmaskings during that time period. Andrew McCarthy postulates that the CIA was doing the spying on General Flynn while he made that call from the Dominican Republic. What do you think's going on?
Well, as you know, we have discussed on this show for a long time the activities of John Brennan overseas, along with the assistance of Comey and FBI legal attachés in several foreign countries. It's quite obvious that Michael Flynn was, in fact, being surveilled overseas by foreign allies of the United States, most likely the United Kingdom, part of the Five Eyes, the 5 group of American and UK Kingdom allies that do and doubt that Flynn was not unmasked, but rather was the subject of spying. And remember, as I said last week, there are 4 opinions by the FISA court about illegal spying activity by the FBI under the Obama administration. Now, spying by the CIA overseas is commonplace. But when it involves an American citizen, they still have to show that the American citizen is an agent of a foreign power, which is what they were trying to show in order to destroy General Flynn. They could never establish it, and of course he was never charged with that. So the bottom line is, I think Andy's got it right on the money.
So the United States cannot spy on an American citizen in a foreign country if they have not already established that he or she was acting as at the behest of a foreign government.
That's right.
And the only way
your rights follow you overseas.
And this is a product of what they call Executive Order 12,333. And Joe, in that order, I was reading it this weekend, it suggests that the only people who can approve this are like John Brennan and James Clapper.
The case against John Brennan gets stronger every day. Clapper obviously would have been a part of this along with Comey. You will recall that it was Brennan who pressured Comey to start a counterintelligence investigation of Flynn and others in the Trump campaign with an electronic communication about that subject matter. There simply isn't any doubt now where John Durham, Bill Barr's special prosecutor, is headed.
Yeah.
He is headed toward a group of charges involving all of these people.
Okay, so Brennan, you had Brennan was on NBC on Friday night. He says he has not yet talked to Durham. And that sounds like a red flag for Brennan, doesn't it? If he's being saved for the end?
You only interview your target when you've interviewed everybody else. And John Brennan is the target, and that is precisely why he has not been interviewed. John Brennan offering himself up for an interview is, of course, a game that Brennan thinks he can play publicly. Unfortunately, Brennan doesn't understand that neither Bill Barr nor John Durham care what John Brennan says or thinks, although they hope he will continue to say as much as possible publicly, which can be compared against his statements that they know exist privately.
Yeah, well, I can't wait again for all of this to come out. I keep waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm patiently waiting, so hopefully this will be a good summer. Joe Digenova, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week.